We're floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. Hi, welcome to the Wingmen Show. My name is Drew Brown. We hope to inspire, entertain, and learn something so we can all make this world a better place for our children. I'd like to introduce to you somebody who's my friend, my wingman, my main man, and I have a wingman watching my back, Dr. Paul Thompson. Hey, Paul, what's happening?
Oh, not much. Hello, everyone. I'm Paul Thompson, and you just heard from Mr. Drew Brown, Dark Gable. He's the American dream. He's the man, the myth, the legend, the pilot's pilot, the role model's role model, and most importantly, his royal fullness. How are you doing today, Mr. Dark Gable?
I'm doing great, and I'm glad I'm full of knowledge, Paul. I'm glad I'm full of knowledge. Well, we're going to have a great show right now. Check this out. Dr. Paul, do I have something to tell you?
I hope it's something good because I want to hear something exciting.
It's very exciting. Look, I'm goofy. My favorite wingman, Dr. Paul Thompson, went to Orlando with his grandchildren or grandchild and family, and he got me a Goofy shirt and pants that I am proudly wearing for the show.
Very good. Very good. You're edified, dignified, solidified, and probably petrified.
And goofy.
And goofy. Very much goofy. You're the opposite of goofy.
Well, I was riding my Peloton today. Katrina and I, we work out on Peloton. We love it. Actually, Peloton's saving our life. And after I was riding, I thought about this. You told me you have a wingman story. You want to just say something about it?
I'd lead it off. This is an interesting wingman story, and I admit I should have known about this a long time ago, but I learned it later in life. And basically the point is that sometimes even people who have a lot of differences can have a common destiny.
Oh, okay.
And you'll see that.
I can't wait.
You'll see that.
I can't wait. Looking good. Well, let's start off this show with my mother-in-law.
Uh-oh.
It's funny when I hear that back. Okay, my mother-in-law. Anyway, she's 86 years old, and she's an 86-year-old wonderful woman who's losing some of her mental capabilities like most 86-year-old people. Nothing abnormal. Well, her phone, because of these new technologies, she's getting spam calls. She doesn't really know how to work the phone. I got her a flip phone, the lowest in technology, and she's still having trouble with it. She had so much trouble with it, she just couldn't take it anymore, and she went to Walmart. And at Walmart, they sold her an iPhone Pro 13. Now, remember, she can't work a flip phone. Now they're selling her a smartphone. They signed her up. Listen to this, Dr. Paul. They signed her up with a fake email, and I'll get back to that. But they actually sold her a phone knowing full well that she can't operate this phone. And the girl who sold it to her gave a fake email and didn't tell her what the PIN was. When she brought it home, we were like, what, are you kidding? So Katrina went and took it back. It took all day to return it. Come to find out, the girl who gave the fake email, you know what she said? And she wasn't scared about it. She said she didn't have an email, so I just made one up. I gave her my email, and I changed one number. I'm saying all that because what a lack of education, knowing, number one, you can't just give people email addresses. Number two, with our elderly, my mother-in-law doesn't even know how to work email. We're having a real problem with technology and our elderly. And you and I are in the actual age range where we were just the beginning of the computer age. And we started learning it, and we're pretty good at it, actually. But before us, they're horrible at it. And look, they don't want to learn. And this world is now coming to technology. Paul, I got a letter. Do you remember when your bills come and it says, would you like to be paperless? Would you like to be paperless? Would you like to be paperless for the past 5 years?
Right.
Well, guess what? My bank just told me you are now paperless.
Right.
whether I like it or not.
Right.
Dr. Paul, what do we do with our elderly and technology? How do we fix this problem? And what do you think about it?
Well, first, I'm sorry your mother-in-law got ripped off. Basically, it sounds like somebody, not an education thing, but somebody just wanted to make a sale by any means necessary. She's probably compensated that way. So she can't operate a flip phone, and give her an iPhone Pro 13. That's kind of like somebody who never took flying lessons and you want them to land a space shuttle. First time, it's 5 miles long. It's in Florida, pat you on the back and, we're all counting on you. That's kind of cruel. I mean, that's almost like a cruel joke, really. And she might have been joking afterwards. Folks do that kind of thing.
I hate to interrupt, but they told her the iPhone doesn't get spam calls. I mean, they actually sold this idea because, the iPhone does stop the spam calls. But my point is, she was like, I have to have it. And the lady didn't even show her how to use it or anything else. I'm sorry, Paul.
Yeah. Well, she wanted to make a sale. She wanted to make a sale. Maybe, and she saw somebody that, this is a sale and no one will come back, but you came back. And, there are a lot of folks who just don't have it together. My mother, before she passed, she was 87, but she did email and she was the one that always studied. And it was just like a little bit of a struggle early on, but she could do what she needed to do. If she were around now, she would probably be able to do it. I have a father-in-law that's in his 90s. He can do a lot of stuff. Of course, he was always technical. So a lot of it is rapid changes. Many people were not technical. The world is very different now. Even cutting grass, you got all these battery-powered things. I, started building my muscles just with a push mower and nothing electrical at all. I thought motorized and computerized stuff was magic. And if you're old enough, that's where you want to stay. You stay in the comfort zone. That's the thing about getting old. You get a pattern, you want to stay in that pattern. I don't want to hear no mess. I'm like that too now about some things.
Me too.
For better and for worse. But you have to. And she's lucky that she has someone younger. You're not that young, but you guys are younger. They can say, no, this is not right. I can correct it. And my kids do that with me, with us too. Because sometimes our iPhones are not optimized either. And they'll say, what do you got all this up here? Okay, I'll fix it. It's like trouble, technical service that they're visiting. And they give it back to you. It's like magic. Like
both of our sons are very technical and could go boop, 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 boop.
Yeah, like they're making balloons at the fair. You can make it a giraffe. Okay, here it is. Don't touch it.
And it looks like they don't want to tell you what they're doing either. So they
because it takes too long. It takes too long. They can do it and eat a pizza in less time than explain to you what they did. So that's the way it's going to be. But that's just the technology. It just moves so quickly. And just as an aside, a couple of days ago, I was in a big box store. I won't mention it. It's nothing bad, but they were cleaning the floors. A big section. You got those. Those Zamboni machines they used to clean the ice skating rinks, hockey rinks. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, this was kind of like a Zamboni machine that was cleaning the floor, but there was nobody in it. It was about half the size of it, and it's technology. They had a steering wheel. The wheel was going. There's nobody there. It's like an invisible man. And if it got near an object or a person, it would stop, wait, clear, then resume. It was early in the morning, very few people in the store. It's there. So, even to sweep up, they can say, we don't need anybody to do these things. You better have your stuff together. So this is, you talked about education earlier, more of a reason to stop messing around. You better be doing something because even the simplest jobs are going to be done by simple or complex robots.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get sick, show up, no health care for them, all that other stuff.
Yeah, what happens when McDonald's gives you automatic hamburgers and they don't even need you there?
That's right. Anyway.
Time for a PSA. If you are not planning on getting a 4-year college degree, whether you're in high school now or you're out of high school already, if you're not going to college and getting a degree, get out today because McDonald's needs you. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. Minimum wage living sucks. That's a PSA from the Wingmen Show.
Agreed.
Dr. Paul, one thing you said that I do want to comment on, you said your parents and grandparents and you know where you come from the East. My mother-in-law comes from Mississippi. It's a total different educational mindset.
Yes.
down where she came. She grew up picking cotton, Paul.
Yes.
It's just totally different. We grew up in the North. Believe it or not, in 1964, the civil rights just started, and I was 9 years old, and I never knew that they had separate bathrooms because I come from New York. I never saw anything like that. To me, that's like old movies. But I want to get back to education real quick. The girl who gave her the fake emails, the reason why it wasn't totally, well, first of all, she walked out of the store after they found out what she did and she quit. But the reason was she said that she gave them bad emails. She wasn't trying to hide that. She said, I never were trained and I couldn't get the sale through unless I gave them an email. So we're talking about this education thing. I was in China and a very good friend of mine saw 4 buildings as big as football fields, big factory buildings. He said he went inside them. Somebody took him inside one of them, and there were only 4 people working. Everything else were robots. Everything else was robots. So what you said, what I just said, is that minimum wage is going to go away soon. And they're not going to need you because there's no sexual harassment. There's no HR. There's no days off. There's no sick. First of all, you are training uneducated people, which are hard to do for minimum wage jobs, just like the Walmart girls. Nobody even told her that you can't make up an email. And she wasn't smart enough to know that you're not allowed to do things like that. That's kind of what I'm saying, Dr. Paul.
Yeah. It's rough out here. Getting worse.
Yes. And guess what's getting rougher? Omicron, the new variant from COVID. And so now we're going to take this in another direction. And we're going to take this that uneducated people are now going to start dying because of a lack of education. Where it used to be if you were uneducated, your life just sucked usually. Usually, if you had a minimum wage job, like I said, your life wasn't great. But now that's going to be gone. Because Omicron, the new variant, I believe that this is the start of people not wanting to get vaccinated are going to start disappearing. They're going to get sick. After a period of time, these people are not going to be here. So the survival of the fittest is really going to be the survival of the smartest.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I think that's likely. Being dumb, I saw the thing saying that being uneducated now is more or as threatening to your life as being a smoker.
Wow, that's good, Doctor.
I'd like to take credit for it, but I read it a couple of days ago. There are a lot of folks who just don't want to know. And the problem with these variants, I think this Omicron, it's got like 50 variants itself.
Correct.
But it does, and that's not going to go away. I think what's going to happen is that you're going to be getting a seasonal COVID shot, like a seasonal flu shot, or maybe they'll roll them into one.
100% yes.
More than likely. I mean, this is not going away because you get too many, not only people who won't get vaccinated, a lot of people can't get vaccinated in the so-called third world and other places. It's not happening quick enough, so you're going to have more variants.
The World Health Organization called this very serious. And guess what Israel did? Boop, locked their doors. Nobody in, nobody out. No foreign visitors allowed in our country. Morocco, the same thing, and Japan just did it. You cannot come into Japan anymore if you're a foreigner. They're taking this very seriously.
Also, the ignorant or whatever, people act really crazy, and there's a kind of like an oppositional disorder that a lot of folks have, and they'll react to it. I read recently there was a lady in Melbourne, Australia. She was quarantined. She came from somewhere. They put her in a quarantine hotel, and she got a little bit upset, got pissed, and she started a fire under her bed. It burned down the hotel.
What?
Yes. It was just a few days ago. I know there are riots in Europe. There are mandates coming down here and there.
Oh, yeah. Austria. It's a countrywide mandate. You have to be vaccinated.
Yeah. So
it's not a choice.
Yeah. Well, and there's going to be, folks that resist. They resist everything But I think now that you have so many technical things happening, even diseases are technical. A lot of people, they can't handle the basic stuff. So now it's as though mentally they can't handle a flip phone and they're getting the iPhone 13 Pro. Or then someone's taking it away. You don't need that, or you shouldn't have that. Then they're fighting you. They're fighting the wrong battle. Right. I think, they're going to disappear.
I believe so too. And let's talk about this Omicron just a little bit, because it's coming from South Africa. And America, I think, closed their doors to 5 or 6 countries in Africa. Right. A lot of people in South Africa, this is really important about education also. Education is just not given. Some people can't even get an education, or some people, their life experiences are their education. Well, the reason that South Africa has just turned down more vaccines is because they have 16 million already in storage. There are 60 million people there, and South Africans are very scared of taking the vaccine. And you look at and you say, well, they're not educated. That's not true. The truth is, the last time their relatives or their grandparents or great-grandparents, their stories in their villages are the last time they took a vaccine. The Germans back in the 1900s, they deliberately gave people smallpox, typhus, tuberculosis. They injected these Africans as test animals. And so when your great-great-grandmother says, if you don't do anything else, just don't get a vaccine, that's all you know. So there's a reason for the South Africans, the people in the bush, to not get vaccines. They're really scared of the European science, because the last time that happened, they got screwed.
Yeah, there's a history of that, because you're talking about maybe other places, but I'm thinking about Namibia. Namibia was a German colony, and that's where they did that. That actually preceded the Holocaust. That's where they perfected what they did in Germany. That was
they tested on black people's what they did to Jews.
That's fact. That's fact. And I think there was some kind of a reparations bill they were talking about or doing. That's in the works there between the German government and Namibia. And I think they turned down the first offer. I don't know the specifics of it, but that's fact. Those little history pieces I didn't get in school.
Wow. Well, can I read off a couple of countries and tell you how many people are vaccinated? In
Sure.
China, 88% of the people in China are vaccinated. They're saying 60% in the U.S. Japan has, I think, 82%. People, Nigeria has 3%, Ethiopia 7%, Egypt 13%, India 50%. The U.S., I just told you, was 60%. China has the most because you don't have a choice in China. In the beginning, when this COVID thing started, I saw Chinese policemen capturing people in the street, civilians with nets, and pulling them inside because they were outside during those restrictions of COVID.
Yeah, and I think sub-Saharan Africa has the lowest rate. In a lot of places, you just can't get to them.
No, and I think this vaccine thing, we both got boosters, and we're doing pretty good with our boosters. And you asked me, how long is the booster going to last? Until I get my next booster.
Right. I think that's the answer. I wouldn't be surprised to see him once a year, every 6 months, maybe, or whatever.
Right. So now I wore this goofy shirt. Can you tell me a little bit about your trip to Disney World that you just took your family on?
Yeah, Disney was great. We drove down there. It was a nice drive. In fact, it's my first trip in 2 years. And we went down, full vehicle, took with stops, about 7 hours. Uneventful. Weather was beautiful. Accommodations were nice. It was a little cooler than usual. And some stuff was cheap and some stuff was very expensive. So you had to watch yourself. We did Disney and we did Universal. I like the Universal theme park a little bit better. Disney was okay. But again, there's still a labor shortage, because one thing that got our attention is, they have those trams that would take you from the parking level or parking area to the main venue.
Yes.
Those trams were parked. They weren't working at any of the Disney theme parks.
They didn't have people to drive them?
I don't think so. And all the Disney workers, people dressed up, I didn't see any of those. Nobody was out. So if you needed directions and stuff, you had to look. You need to go to the place where they're selling ice cream. I think they have a labor shortage.
Did you have to wear a mask in Disney?
Yes, if you were inside. Any inside thing, they were big on that. You had to have a mask on inside. At Universal, they weren't big on that at all. I mean, they might have mentioned it like once. Disney was like about every place, absolutely every place inside.
How were the lines?
Lines for some of the rides were pretty long. We did a really good one. It was a mission to Mars, and I think they put us in a centrifuge. That was pretty good.
Really?
That was I was impressed with that one. It was like, it wasn't a full roller coaster, but it was probably about 75% as good as a roller coaster. It was just inside. You landed on Mars and you were doing the mission. I was impressed. I mean, you were pulling G's there for a while too. Got to about a good three or four. I said, how are they doing this? Had to have been a centrifuge. They moved.
You thought you were back in your A7?
A little bit, yeah, that was good. And Jurassic Park at the Universal, that was very, very nice. I like that better. Maybe they pay more because they had more people out.
You know, Paul, I have a granddaughter now, and I'm about to have another grandchild. And nobody told me this, but it's changed my life. I had no idea having grandchildren was this incredible. It's almost like a secret that just popped up. But being a grandparent's a lot different than being a parent.
Yes.
Your grandson just came from the Philippines here, and you haven't seen him in a while. He's staying with you now. How you like being a grandparent?
Well, it's interesting. It's a different challenge because you're sometimes like an intermediary between the parent and the child, which is different because the intermediary is your child, which is I don't know how to describe it. But, he's been here about a month now and started school and getting into the flow. And he's adjusting quite well, actually, for somebody who's just 5 years old.
I'll tell you what, grown-ups are starting to piss me off anyway. Mm-hmm. They think too much and there's too much evil in them. And children are just wonderful.
Yeah. And there's something about a child's genuine laughter that's nice where your child gets to be a child.
Yes.
Without gunshots ringing out and worried about, everything around the corner. You can just be normal.
Well, I always said this. You ever seen a 2, 3, 4-year-old just turn around in circles, just dancing by themselves? That's endorphins. And that's what these drugs try to stir up in a lot of people to make them happy again. And these kids are happy naturally.
Yes.
It's a great thing to be a kid. I don't want to grow up. Grown-ups suck to me.
Yes, yeah. Well, I can tell by your shirt.
Yeah, because my friend made me goofy.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Paul, you told me you had a Wingman story, and you didn't tell me what it was earlier when we did some work for the show. So I'm looking very much forward to hearing your Wingman story.
Okay, well, here it is. You may have heard of this. You may have heard the names, but we're going to talk to Wingman today. There's a couple of gentlemen, Thomas Hudner and Jesse L. Brown. Thomas Hudner was a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy. Grew up, I believe, in Fall River, Massachusetts. Jesse L. Brown came from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. You mentioned Mississippi before. Jesse L. Brown was the first Black Navy pilot.
What?
This is during the Korean War. He was a fighter pilot. They were in the squadron together, and they were flying off the USS Leyte, Leyte, during the Korean War. And I think it was Fighter Squadron 32, and they were flying the F-4U Corsair. The F-4U Corsair, not the A-7 Corsair, the F-4U Corsair. We had the gull wings, kind of like an F-4 Phantom, the gull wings. I think called dihedral wings. And mainstay fighter for the World War II for the Navy and the Marine Corps. Well, One day they went out on a mission. They had a number of missions, and this was over the Chosin Reservoir. They call it the Frozen Chosin. And the Marines were getting pummeled by Chinese troops coming in. And it was in the middle of winter, very, very tough situation. But long story short, Jesse Brown's plane got hit. Now, I'm not going to go into how he was treated in flight training and all that other stuff. You can use your imagination.
No, maybe they can't use their imagination, Dr. Paul, because you and I weren't treated that much better.
Well, yeah, I was treated better than this. Long story short, when he was, he caught, a lot of help from everybody, including black stewards who were mess men. They worked in the mess. Mm-hmm. It went everywhere. He got no breaks, but he survived. He did well, obviously. And I can get you a picture of him, walking on the flight deck of the carrier.
Oh yeah, if you're watching YouTube right now, you're going to see a picture.
Yeah. We'll gen up some pictures. But in any case, they went on this mission one day. They're supporting the Marines in the Chosin Reservoir. Get a little backstory where they were going, trying to take this reservoir. Chinese troops would pass the Yalu River. They were coming down into Korea. The Marines were kind of in a pass. And in a bad situation, outnumbered probably, 10-1, 12-1. And they needed close air support to have any chance just to retreat. So they were on this mission to search and destroy targets. Long story short, one of the missions, they're in there, and Jesse Brown's plane got hit. Leaking fuel, leaking oil, lost oil pressure. He ends up crashing, I guess a controlled crash into the side of a mountain. His wingman, this Thomas Hudner, saw this, saw him on the ground, saw him waving, and decided that he needed help. He was stuck in the airplane. He was still in the airplane. He basically lands his airplane.
What?
He lands his airplane, wheels up landing, and he gets out of his airplane and tries to extricate Jesse Brown from his airplane, but he can't. His legs are trapped inside the plane. He goes back to his plane, gets on the radio, calls for help. They send in I guess there's other planes above. Basically, a rescue helicopter comes in. The area is so remote that the enemy couldn't really get to him right away. So they send a rescue helicopter in, and the helicopter guys come out, and they try to help him, try to get him out. They can't get him out. And he's losing consciousness. He's losing blood. And no, he's not likely to make it. And he says to Hudner, "Tell Daisy that I love her." Daisy was his girlfriend that he married just before he went on the cruise. So they leave. It's getting late because at that time they didn't fly at night. So they had to go back. So Hudner goes into the helicopter, they fly back to the ship, and there's the discussion on trying to go back to get him, but they think that it's going to be too risky. It's going to be a trap, and they're going to lose more men, more people. And by this time, they thought that he had probably died anyway, given his condition, because it said he just slumped over before they left. So the decision was to keep from his body and the airplane falling into enemy hands. They gave him what they called a hero's salute. And they flew back with 7 airplanes. They orbited overhead, and they dropped napalm on the site.
Shit.
This is that. They dropped napalm to burn up everything. And after they dropped the napalm, they recited the Lord's Prayer on the radio. Okay. This is a black man from Mississippi. His wingman, Hudner, was a white guy from Fall River, Massachusetts. I would say, they should have made a movie about that. This happened on December 4, 1950. A few years later, there was a movie made called The Bridges of Toko-Ri. One of my favorites. I like it a lot. Started, I think, with old black and white movie, maybe they colorized it, with William Holden and Mickey Rooney and Grace Kelly. It was Middle America kind of thing. But obviously it was based on that, but you wouldn't know that. But I always wondered why I was always attracted to that movie. I've watched it for 34 years. I didn't know about this until just a few years ago, and it doesn't. No one mentioned it initially for Hudner. Who landed his airplane. They're talking about there's consideration of court-martialing him for doing that, for losing an airplane. Why did you do that? You didn't have to go down. So he goes from court-martial. He actually gets the Congressional Medal of Honor. I think he's the first and only Navy pilot in the Korean War that got the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Wow.
Presented to him. And Jesse Brown got the Distinguished Flying Cross awarded posthumously by Harry Truman to his wife, Daisy, years later. In 1972, they commissioned a ship and they named it after him, Jesse L. Brown.
Wow.
Thomas Hudner stayed in, he retired as a captain, had a ship named after him in the early part of 2017. And he passed away a few months later, in the latter part of 2017. So the point being that, workmates and people that you see in college or school or whatever, they can share a few drinks and share a meal. But wingmen can share a common destiny. And I think right now, Jesse Brown and Thomas Hudner are wingmen once again.
Oh, Dr. Paul, what a great story. And I got a great idea since I'm your wingman. You're an author. You should write the book. I'm not kidding. What a story that was.
Yeah. Maybe I'll write a screenplay. We'll do a different movie.
Sure. But, I should know that too. And I don't know that.
Right.
There's history that we need to know that makes things a little bit brighter in the world, because things are going to be all right, Dr. Paul. We're going to make it. That's what the Wingmen Show is here for. The Wingmen Show is here to show that when you take care of each other, you can make it.
Yep. Up with hope, down with negativity.
Thank you once again, Dr. Paul Thompson, my friend. Thank you for your love, your time, and that's something that we won't ever get back. I want to thank all the listeners, too. Thank you so much for doing the show, Dr. Paul. We're jamming.
Well, thank you, Mr. Drew, for inviting me on. Always good to talk to you. And ladies and gentlemen, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast or any of the podcasts. If you're looking at YouTube, they say smash the like button. Don't smash it. Just press it gently and use as a link to all your friends. You can also look at us on our website, wingmenshow.com, WINGMEN show, SHOW.com, altogether, wingmenshow.com. And we hope to see you in the future. Thanks again, Mr. Drew.
Oh, you're welcome. And we're still floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. May there be peace on earth and goodwill towards all men and women.